Alright, so this is where the underground route meets up, so if you took the other path, you will also wind up in the main hall. This is very reminiscent of original Castlevania, and I do appreciate the consistency. They don't always make the entrance of Castlevania look exactly the same, and that's probably for the best, but, you know, it was early on in the series, so it was still cute for them to do that, and not, like, too repetitive design-wise. Of course, the rest of the castle will be much different from, you know, the rest of the series. It's not just gonna be a repeat of Castlevania 1. This isn't a Kanto situation. They didn't just shove the first game into a cartridge, but say, hey, you're playing as Trevor instead. That being said, since we're so far in the game, I think it's time I mention a bit of a change from the original Japanese version of Castlevania 3. There were, of course, a bunch of changes overall. However, one that's interesting to note is the fact that the US version of the game is actually harder than the original. And the reason why is a change they made to damage scaling. So, in the original, every enemy had their own damage values, so, you know, a bat wouldn't do much, a skeleton wouldn't do much, and, you know, that works out fairly well, right? You know, you just get hit by a skeleton, you don't expect to take much damage. Because, I guess, probably for the usual reason of they wanted you to rent this game more, they made the change so that damage scales by level. So yes, the farther you get in the game, the more damage all enemies do. So at this point, a humble bat will do the same amount of damage as any other enemy here, more or less. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but like in general, it does scale. So that even the enemies that are just, you know, first level enemies that you fight at the beginning of the game will do a ton of damage to you by this point. It's kind of ridiculous and very bad. It does mean that, like, more annoying enemies are actually even worse by this point, because again, the humble bat will do the same damage as that axe would have done. It's ludicrous. So you have to watch out for everything, even the tiny annoying enemies who are really supposed to grief you more than they're actually supposed to damage you, but no, they are just some of the biggest threats. Medusa heads, oh, they're going to make you fuck off. Anyway, here's a bridge segment, another thing is collapsing. So we gotta make our great escape. Run, Trevor, run, you got this. Maybe. I mean, just barely making it through a platforming section like that's pretty in character. Alright, so, big pile of corpses. You know, that must mean we're fighting Death, and Death is pretty difficult. His first form throws scythes around, and boy, they are copious and follow you pretty quickly. Thankfully, it's pretty easy to take out the first form, and now we have the very freaky second form, which is immune to crosses, it would seem. However, strangely enough, it's not immune to being frozen. Now, this isn't really an ideal way to fight this boss, and considering you probably aren't going to maneuver around him just in time to, like, barely dodge, freeze him, then get by him with Trevor, it's not the best strategy to do, because basically, attack-wise, yeah, you pretty much just do this. You freeze him, and then you just try to get some hits off on him. Unfortunately, when a thing is frozen, you cannot switch to Trevor to deal damage. That would have been really cool. I would have appreciated that. I get why that's not the case, but yeah, if you try to use it defensively, you won't fare much better, because you can freeze him and kind of reposition yourself. Death will kind of just do the circular attack for this whole thing, just move around in circles, screen wrap to the other side, so you can freeze him, and you will know where to put yourself, but you're not really afforded much time to do so. So, since that's not the optimal way to get rid of Death, let's just finish him off with Trevor, and that's quite the stance you got there, buddy. The Belmonts will be imitating that one for years to come. After we finish the rest of the castle, though.